Hello everybody, this is Kyrix with another edition of This Week in Kyrix. Today is Wednesday, August 26th of 2015. See, I had to do a little math in my head because it's actually still Tuesday for another 17 minutes. Close enough, though, it counts. I have a lot of good news. I've been busy as hell this week. But first, I mentioned last week that for now at least, the issue of the power bill is settled. We managed to get everything done. Or rather, we got last month's due. That's right, because it happened on Thursday. I was able to get the extension. We're good. At least until the 10th of next month. But hey, that's then. This is now. Just enjoy the peace while we have it, you know? Of course, that still left the lingering issue of my credit card bill, which was due on the 26th. Which is, today / tomorrow / Wednesday. It's due Wednesday. Just for simplicity's sake. So that left the issue of what I'm gonna do. Ah, that's why it looks that way. Because I forgot they're layered. But again, that leaves the issue of what was I gonna do? Was I gonna be able to come up with the money? At the last minute, the answer was yes. Yes, I was able to come up with the money. I just got back from my friend's house, Reaper, as he goes by. He has contributed one thing on my channel. He was actually the guy I was going to do Ring of Red with, but our schedules with him not lined up, plus I have since moved even further away from him. And I found out tonight that they've had him working like 6 days a week. Been working like 60, 70-hour shifts. Doing lawn care in Florida in the summertime. Because yes, August for us is still very much summer. So you can imagine how perky he is after a shift. But yeah, I went down there and I finally took him his Christmas presents, which I think was a fast attack thing. I think it was like a jump jet, whatever. It's some kind of jump troops for Space Marines from Warhammer 40k. I got it like 2 years ago from the bookstore. What happened is Games Workshop had sent them basically a sample package for free. Like, oh, here's some of our stuff you can sell in your store. See if you can entice you to buy from us. See if it'll entice your players to play, etc. That kind of shit. Because she used to stock with 40k. But Games Workshop can be rather bullying, so she got fed up with them and discontinued carrying anything new. Well, she showed the HeroClix players, which was us, the thing and said, hey, do any of you play Warhammer? If so, take the stuff you'll use and leave the rest, because I have a friend who will do the thing. Well, I grabbed this for Reaper because he plays Space Marines. Specifically, he plays Black Templar. But even with my limited knowledge of Space Marines is Space Marines in the sense that it doesn't matter whether you play Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Steel Wolves, Imperial Guard, Black Templar. You use the same models. It's just how you paint them and how you kit them out, you know? So I knew that whatever these were, he could use them in his faction. And I've tried several times to give them to him. But he'd be over here, and one of us would forget it. I'd either forget to give it to him, or he'd forget to pick it up, and it's been here forever. Even when he helped me move, I think at that point it was still packed in a box, and I couldn't find it before his last day helping us. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going over there. I'm going to try and basically beg for some money. Which I hate doing, especially from my friends, you know? They're not my friends because I can just mooch cash off them. They're my friends because they're my fucking friends. But I'm like, you know what? Even if he doesn't have the money, I can at least bring him his freaking Christmas present, because that's what that was. And I did, and I dropped it off. I'm like, dude, I hate to ask. Especially since I haven't seen you in forever. So the very first thing, I'm like, hey, gonna borrow some fucking money, you know? But I'm like, can I borrow $55 until the 5th? Because they're gonna eat me alive with these fucking late fees if I don't pay this. And he came to the rescue. So I gotta pay it back the 5th. I'll just get another payday advance after I cash this one, you know? But, it's a start. At least I won't have a late fee, you know? So thank you, buddy. You saved my ass. More news. This one will be going up on time. I have put everything except for like 3 episodes scheduled to upload basically later today of This Week in Kyrix. And this, I'm going to go up at McDonald's later this afternoon and do the last 3 and do this one. And from here on out, I'm up to date on This Week in Kyrix. And I intend to try and keep it that way. But more importantly, I've been busy as hell. I finished playing Final Fantasy IX now. There's still the possibility of a bonus video covering all the shit that I meant to do that I missed, like showing off the entire card collection, getting all the blue magics, renaming Princess Garnet to Sarah, which is her real name, spoilers, showing off every single spell, summon, blue magic, possibly every dying trance. All the thieveries, or not all the thieveries, all the thief skills, all the sword techs, all the dragoon skills, all the flip, basically every special technique every character has, with the possible exception of Zidane's trances, just because it's a pain in the ass to make him trance, you know, but I can try. And it'll be all the stuff I missed, you know, it'll be everyone at max level, beating the game again. It'll be all that stuff, and it may never happen. I'm going to go on record, and I went on record saying at the time, this might not happen, I might be too busy, I might not have the patience for it, but I will try, and I will try. But I finished Final Fantasy IX, and Final Fantasy IX is uploaded. That's right. Well, where is it, Kyrix? It's in the future. Yeah, I literally spent the past 2 days, 3 trips to McDonald's, uploading the entirety of Final Fantasy V from January 1st, 2016, all the way to, I think, January 13th, 2017. 55 episodes, 53 of which take place next year, because there's an extra Friday. Every Friday in 2016, and 2 of them in 2017 are taken care of. It will upload on time. I'm currently actively recording Ring of Red. I've pulled Dead Rising. I started to say Dead Island. Started to say Dead Mission, but I pulled Dead Island. Fuck me. I pulled Dead Rising 2 off the external, and I intend to resume that as well. I might even finish that before Ring of Red, because it's only got a couple videos left. And that will go up. I haven't decided when, but that'll go up. I've got to find something to tack on the end of it, because it's not a full... Unless I royally procrastinate and stretch that out, like find more things to do, like a video where I do nothing but fuck around in the cars, or show off my grinding technique, or whatever. Little bonus videos. I might be able to cheat that up to 52 episodes, but I doubt it. But anyway, that's going to go up. Front Mission and Ring of Red are going to take place on Mondays. Haven't recorded any of Front Mission yet. I have... I want to say 6 episodes of Ring of Red, and Ring of Red's kind of all over the place, because it's going to be an episode per mission, with the exception of the first 2 missions, which take up a single episode. But some of the episodes are long, like the last one I did was over 2 hours long, so we're hitting Harvest Moon numbers. Harvest Moon will be probably Thursdays. I don't know why, but I associate Thursdays with Harvest Moon for some reason. I have no idea what the connection is. It just seems kind of harvesty, kind of autumny, you know? Alien stuff. Alien Isolation, Alien vs. Predator, and probably XCOM. Because I don't think I've uploaded anything of XCOM, and XCOM is done except for me smushing the last episode together. Because the last episode I had to cut the feed because the game froze, and then I had to restart it, so I have to sync the episodes back together into one cohesive unit. And when I do that, we're good. But XCOM and the Alien franchise stuff will probably be on a Saturday. I might do... I don't know yet. Might do some of the classic Resident Evil stuff, too. Because I have a lot of them. I have 2 and 3 on the PlayStation 3. I have 2 copies of one. Somewhere in here I have one as a physical copy, the director's cut. I also have the remake for the GameCube. I have Resident Evil 0 for the GameCube. I've done Resident Evil 4, but I still have it. Etc., you know? But the plan is, and I finally decided, there will be 7 new videos each week. Plus This Week in Kyrix. That means 8 videos out of me every week, guaranteed, with the possibility of little bonus stuff like, oh, Happy Halloween, or, oh, here's this update. Turns out me and Henri are planning something, and here's when it's gonna air, you know? We're not planning anything that I know of that he's cued me in on, but that kind of thing, you know? Just kind of running around for lack of anything better to do at the moment. I will find something better to do soon. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about that, done. But yeah, that's... So, if you are a subscriber of mine in 2017, or 2016, I'm gonna blow your inbox right the fuck up. And most of these are done. I mean, not done as in, oh, it's finished, it's ready to go up, but they're done. They're effectively finished. It's just minor touches, little bits and pieces I still gotta do. Like, in Harvest Moon, it's a season. Or not a season, it's the final year, but it doesn't... And don't get me wrong, it's gonna take a lot of physical time, but I can one-shot it in a week if I have to. And once all of these are done, as soon as each one is done, I'm gonna take it up to McDonald's and upload it. Once that's finished, I have all the time in the world to get started on next year's stuff. So yeah, like I said in my update video, or my mini-vid rather, we're gonna call it that for now, I pretty much abandoned 2015 for new stuff. There will be no serious new content for 2015. I might finish Skatebird, but as far as brand new Let's Plays, no, there will be nothing. Nothing more for 2015. 2015 is over with. Because 2016 needs to happen. And I'm already thinking of stuff for 2017. Nothing set in stone yet. Although it's very possible that I will follow Final Fantasy IX with Final Fantasy X and X-2 on Fridays. So look forward to that. But if you, as one of my viewers, subscribers, patrons? Hey, I'm very torn on Patreon. On the one hand, I could really use the fucking money. And as much as I would love to say that it's only for the, my original statement of, oh, anything I make on Patreon is exclusively for this channel, at this point, I need it to make the fucking bills. You know? And the sad thing is, it's a completely legitimate thing of, hey, please help me with my bills, but I feel like the world's biggest asshole to make other people cover my expenses. I mean, it's not my fault. It's not like I have the money and I'm just pissing it away, because I spent every cent I fucking had on the bills this month. It's just that... And it's not even me being ashamed to ask for help either, because I mean, I went over to Reaper's house, which was a good probably 45-minute ride for me without any hesitation. I felt like an asshole for asking. It's not that I'm embarrassed to do it, I feel like an asshole for it. Though to be fair, I'd be hard pressed to think of a single time when one of my friends needed anything from me that I was capable of giving that I didn't. So it's not like I'm just mooching off them. Even though I said that several times, I'm just mooching. I'm not. I am paying him back. It just feels like it. Like, for example, my roommate John and my niece went through the same thing with me, where all this month I haven't had food stamps, and every time I asked them for anything, I basically said, look, I'm sorry to even ask. I feel like an asshole for mooching. I want my stamps to come in so I can pull my own weight. When they pointed out, you've done stuff for us too, you know. Most of my stamps, nearly all of them, went for the house, you know? Like, I got them some sodas. I got us all pizzas. The pizzas are what fucking set me back. You know, that one meal was a sizable portion of the reduced stamps that I had for this month. When I say reduced, don't worry. The only reason they were reduced is because I was able to reapply so late in the month. I got a letter today basically saying that starting September, I get my normal amount back. So, don't worry, my food stamps are intact. I am fine on that regard. But, yeah, it's gonna be a bit problematic. But what can you do, you know? See, I've run out of projects. I don't know what to do anymore. Except maybe whittle this down, but why? What would I do with it? You know? No idea what I do with all this stone. So yeah, I've been, I got off track. So my viewers, my subscribers, my patrons, that I still don't have, but maybe? If there's a particular game you want to recommend that I Let's Play, keep in mind, we're talking PS3, anything that Gamefly has. So, even if you're not a member, you can check to see what games Gamefly has for rent. If Gamefly has a PS3 game for rent, I can probably, well, I can do it. Whether or not I will is up for debate. It might be a game that I can't stand, you know? Like, don't expect Harry Potter or SpongeBob out of me. I don't like those franchises. Which I've said that before. That being said, you're free to enjoy all the Harry Potter and all the fucking SpongeBob you want. I don't like, you know? You won't get intelligent conversation with me on that point, but fuck it, I'm the guy who watches ponies. I don't have a leg to stand on. If you want to recommend a game and it's there, cool. If it's a PlayStation game, if it's available on PlayStation Network, you might have to donate to it for me to get it, because I might not have it, but if you can help me get it, I'll give it a go, probably. If I have my PlayStation Network back, I have numerous free games, like somewhere on there. I can't guarantee I'll do this, because the game didn't really take very well for me. But as an example, like, I have the entire Spyro series. I didn't much care for it, but I might give it a go. Might. Emphasis on might. Maybe. Possibly. It is a maybe. But that kind of thing. PS2 games, again, anything on PlayStation Network, I might be able to do. And again, that also matters if I can get access to the internet to even get it. Anything Super Nintendo, anything from a 16-bit or 8-bit system. Preferably in the terms of 8-bit, the Nintendo and not the Master System, because Master System emulators are a bitch. They're very quirky. But if it's like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, I can emulate those. I'll give them a go. Hell, I probably played it. You know, I played a lot of old, obscure shit. So, I mean, if you want to recommend stuff, feel free. Jesus. Feel free to recommend stuff to me, because I'll probably give it a go. I love to game. I might not do it, because again, it might be a game that I either don't enjoy or don't like, or for whatever reason it's not something that I have fun with. Like, one game, as an example of something I definitely will do, is there's a game called Evo. I love me some Evo. Can be a bit hard, but I do love the game. It's a lot of fun. It's a very interesting premise to it, you know? That was the wrong kind of material. But Evo's an example of a game I love to play. Most RPGs I'll at least give a shot to. If you want to recommend something like Earthbound, specifically Earthbound, keep in mind I've been running Equestria Bound blind, so if I do that, it'll be a while, because I want to get Equestria Bound up first, before I fuck with Earthbound. Any of the Final Fantasies I'm game for except 5, because 5 is its own separate project that I might finish. I hope I'll finish it eventually. It is absolutely because it was the very first LP I attempted. I wasn't very good at what I was doing. I accidentally critically overgrinded, which is, even that is an understatement. I literally was so far beyond what I should have been. No, I mean, it's downright criminal how overpowered I was for that game. But I was just so overpowered. It was literally stupid. Because what happened was, in games like that, I tend to get so caught up in the job system that I grind that to the exclusion of all else. Unfortunately, the process of grinding every single job in the game, well, it had to have the unfortunate side effect of making me level 80. And this was very early in the game. As in, spoilers, because if the game does come up, it'll be very long from now. But there are 4 distinct worlds in the game. I was still in the first. And I was about 20 levels above what the strategy guide recommends I be to beat the game. Just putting that out there. So yeah, Final Fantasy V is a no. Final Fantasy VI is going to happen. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the PlayStation Anthology version. Because I own it. I plan to do Chrono Trigger if I can ever find my Chronicles game. I plan to do Origins if I can ever find that game. Although, since my Final Fantasy II disc acted up on the PlayStation 2, if it does the same thing on the PS3, I might just bite the bullet and buy the PlayStation Network version and do that. If I can ever find Star Ocean, that's on the list. I mean, you can recommend shit to me. I can't guarantee I'll do it, but hey, if it's a game I haven't played and you sell it well enough, I might give it a shot. Game Boy Advance games are very much a possibility. If you can get me an emulator/ROM copy that works, I have no problem doing DS games. You know? Again, DS, because I don't have a 3DS emulator that works. And I do not have a capture card. And while I do have a working DS emulator, that doesn't necessarily mean I can handle every game. Like, I would love to do Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, but I can't find a copy that works. I'd love to do Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but I can't find a copy that works. I tried to do Conquest, and that required a specific emulator just for that, you know? Etc., that kind of thing. Like, one thing I would love to do, if I could find a copy of, say, Black and White and Heart Gold and Soul Silver that work on emulators, and get a ROM hacker to do it, I would love to go through every single generation of Pokemon. And again, I'd need a starter ROM hacker for it, but I would love to do a Larvitar run of every single version of Pokemon. And what this is, seeing as how Larvitar is my freaking avatar, it is my signature Pokemon. It is my partner. My starter would be a Larvitar, and I'd let consensus dictate what my opponent's starter would be. Shit, dead. And it could be anything within reason, I mean. We could even go based off of, have my rivals basically alternate between Kyler and Henri. Like, oh, he's got a Cyndaquil, or oh, he's got a Sableye, that kind of shit, or a Dunsparce. You know, which, to be fair, that wouldn't fare very well for Henri, because I guarantee you the computer wouldn't level it properly and all that shit. And since I'm a rock type and all that. But it's an option, that kind of thing. And again, in that case, it wouldn't work as well because Typhlosion's a very powerful Pokemon, but it's at a distinct advantage against, or disadvantage against, Tyranitar. But the idea being, I could catch whatever, but I have to keep my starter with me at all times, that kind of thing. One of those runs. And I'd love to do that, because I love me some Larvitar. How can you not? He's such a cutie. I'd even go so far as to do an Ash Ketchum style run where I can't ever evolve my starter and just keep him as an adorable Larvitar throughout the entire game. But I'd love to do that, just as a fun little thing. It would serve no purpose, there's no prize, no contest, because we know I can do it, but I just want to have one kind of like Star's Challenge, you know? Except I'm allowed to catch Pokemon now, you know? And just see where it goes. But again, it's an emulator thing. And for the record, I'm iffy about PlayStation emulation. That's PlayStation 1. Not because of anything like, oh, well, I'm trying to... Because I am trying to do this as legally as possible, you know? Like, I don't download games to Let's Play like I might have, say, 3 years ago or 2 years ago or however long it was that I started doing this, because I don't even fucking know anymore. But that's something I would have done back in the day, you know? I might not have blatantly advertised it, but that's something I would have done. And now that I'm trying to be a Let's Player, I've stopped. Like, I don't even do that in my off time anymore. Like, a couple years ago. With, let's say, Icewind Dale Enhanced just came out. Well, not just. They're probably up to Icewind Dale 2 by now. But the same people who did Baldur's Gate Enhanced made Icewind Dale Enhanced. Before I became a Let's Player, I'd have just said, well, I can't afford it, let's download it! Let's just hit the internet and grab me a copy, etc. And not thought twice about it. But now, I'm like, well, I gotta set an example. I can't just go pirating games. You know, it's not what responsible Let's Players do. So I just go without. And especially in terms of indie games, and I do consider the enhanced Black Isle games to be indie games in that regard, because the sales from Baldur's Gate Enhanced fueled Baldur's Gate 2, the sales from that fueled Icewind Dale, etc. If they sell, they will make more, you know? I was quite happy to pay, I think I paid $4 or $5 for my copy of FTL, but I'd have been fine paying the 10 or whatever it was. Or maybe it was 10 and it's normally 20. But either way, I got it reduced, but I'd have been fine paying full price. I paid for Game Dev Tycoon. I bought Honey Pop, etc. I bought those little indie games. And I'm trying to support indie game developers. I fully intend, even if I don't do them as recordings, to buy the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Even if when I play them, my suspicions are confirmed that, oh, this game is not that great. The story behind the game is fantastic. And I want to support the guy and say, basically, look, I don't particularly enjoy the game, but I enjoy the lore you've created for the game. Take this as an enticement, make more games, you know? Maybe not necessarily in the same franchise, although I've heard things that he'll make a new franchise, that he'll expand the franchise, etc. But if he keeps making games like that, they're very well done for one guy. I mean, you could say, oh, all these limitations and the whatever. I mean, remember, this is just like Cave Story. This is one guy doing this. And not only is it one guy doing this, it's one guy doing an immensely popular series with 4 installments that came out in the same year, basically. That's impressive. That alone deserves some money, you know? So, I mean, I don't have money, but when I get it, I want to support that kind of shit. So, I intend, for example, as soon as I get some free money and get my internet back and all that, I intend to get Resident Evil Revelations 2, because I loved the first one. I've heard things about the second one that imply that it's not very good, but I don't care. I'm gonna blind it anyway, you know? I need to get off my butt and finish, well, start the recording and finish the game of Assassin's Creed. I need to start Shadows of Mordor. I have so many games that I need to work on that I haven't done a fucking thing with for one reason or another. And that's part of the reason I am a Let's Player, because I owned Valkyria Chronicles for how long and barely touched it? I got to, like, the third thing. I literally got to the first level where you have your army. And did, like, a single mission or something. And then I became a Let's Player, and I got off my butt, and I beat that game, and I loved it. It's a fantastic game. I had some issues with the overall moral of it. And I've had arguments about said moral in my comments section, and that's fine. That's beautiful that I'm engaging my fans in the comments section over our disputes in the moral. Like, I didn't think anything of it when I made the videos, but after I posted, I'm like, you know, I guarantee there are people who are going to take objections to my interpretation of Final Fantasy IX, and Zidane in particular. Which, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to leave it, like, vague. I am such a fan of him as a character. I think he is the greatest, the most heroic Final Fantasy protagonist, with the possible exception of Cecil. But even then, he did all the stuff Cecil did without almost any angst whatsoever. Whereas Cecil was understandably an angsty little bastard. And they have a very similar origin now that I think about it. And I used to say that Final Fantasy IX was my second favorite, with 6 being my favorite. And then I played the game again as an adult 15 years later. And I'm sorry, I love Final Fantasy VI. I adore it. I love the characters. I love the villain. But I think 9 is the better game. Now, there are plenty of Final Fantasy VI fans out there that will be quite pissed at this. But keep in mind, this is a 16-bit game holding its own against the most advanced of the PlayStation Final Fantasies. Because the next Final Fantasy came out in the PS2 with massive upgrades to everything. And the fact that a 16-bit game could hold its own against every other game in the series, even if it comes up second place, that's good. Don't take that as any kind of criticism to 6. Take that as the ultimate compliment to 6. The fact that even for a little while, in this case a little while being 15 goddamn years, even for a little while, it was the best to me. And now, after decades, well, a decade and a half, it finally dropped down to second place. Chrono Trigger was like that for me. For me, for years, Chrono Trigger was the RPG. My favorite RPG of all time. And then, after some consideration, that game changed to Star Ocean. And then it changed to Rogue Galaxy, which I would love to play, but again, I gotta get my PlayStation 2 stuff, I gotta find and make sure my memory card was intact, I gotta make sure Rogue Galaxy wasn't one of the games that was fucking stolen from me. I'm pissed it was. But yeah, that's the, I mean, that's the thing is, as you play games, as you age and play games, you understand more about them a lot of times. Games that were once perfect, now you can recognize the flaws. Games that you thought you knew everything about, suddenly you're older and you recognize themes in the games that you never did, or you're exposed to other sources that make you analyze themes that you never noticed before. You know, like TV tropes helped expand me on that. Like, oh, I can recognize things now. And yeah. Incidentally, thanks to a YouTube video that I saw, I have a death battle I want to see. Because they can do it, and I trust them to do it, but it's strange because it's two people who exist in the same universe, but at different times. I want to see who would win between Aang and Korra. Because this guy did a versus comparison thing, and apparently he does them for a lot of things. And don't get me wrong, I agreed with everything he said. Like, for example, in terms of physical prowess, he gave the edge to Korra, because Korra is a fucking tank, you know? Whereas Aang is not. 3 out of the 4 elements he gave to Korra. The one she didn't get, air. That's fine. Avatar state. Korra's more powerful, but Aang is more, or no. Korra's more primal, Aang is more in control. Sure. You know? And basically it came down to, as long as Aang doesn't go in the Avatar state, Korra wins, hands down. As soon as Aang goes in the Avatar state, he's probably going to win. And that's almost certainly true, but I'd still like to see Death Battle's take on it. And again, even though I highly disagree with the results of the Superman battle, it's not because of them, it's because of the material. It's because of the comic writers that don't have a fucking leash on them. Because here's the thing, people are like, oh, you just watched the TV show, or... No, I've read the fucking comics. I've read Blackest Night, which was a Crisis crossover. There was a fucking Jonah Hex Blackest Night comic, okay? And if Jonah Hex gets in it, you know it touches everything. But yeah, Superman fought a Black Lantern of Earth 2 Superman. And it took him, and Superboy, and Crypto to fight him off. You know? I mean, they keep saying, oh, Superman has no limits. No, he has limits. Here's the thing. If something stupidly overpowered happens in a comic, ask yourself this, has it happened twice? Because if not, it was probably one dipshit who got away with it, and then they said, this is too stupid, he can't really do that. You know? Comics retcon the shit out of each other. One guy's like, oh, that was like 50 supernovas to the face or something. No, it wasn't. Why? Because it was a guy who did it, and that probably wasn't the first time he did it, and if it wasn't the first time he did it, that would mean he's done it before, and if he'd done it before, if it were really 50 supernovas, we wouldn't have a fucking planet to do it on, would we? You know? Like, oh, Superman's towed a planet. How many times? You sure it wasn't just one dipshit writer that's been retconned? Because they retcon a lot of stuff in comics. Like, that never happened, or that happened differently. A lot of that happened when Superboy punched reality. Superboy Prime. The super overpowered Superman. From our universe. He was the only superhero in our universe, and they made him so stupidly powerful, even by Superman standards. He got mad because comics got darker than he liked, and they weren't the super-duper ultra golden age superheroes anymore. And in a tantrum, in a pocket dimension, he punched reality and brought Jason Todd back to life, among other things. Yeah, those of you who saw Batman Under the Red Hood, like, oh, that's not how he came back to life. Yeah, it is. In comics, that's really how he came back to life. And the people who did Under the Red Hood and wanted to bring Jason Todd as Red Hood back looked at the comic and said, wow, this is so stupid. Hey, let's give him a decent origin. What about Ra's al Ghul? Put him in the Lazarus Pit. That makes sense. That's what happened. He felt bad for whatever reason that Jason Todd died and stuck him in the Lazarus Pit. Well, how about he's the one who arranged the whole thing? That's perfect. He sicked the Joker on him and then he regretted it. You know, that's a fantastic re-origin story. That's great. I would love for that to be in canon, but it's not. Superboy Prime punched reality because he got mad, because it's what he does, because he's a whiny bitch. You know? Now, I could absolutely see Superboy Prime pulling off this crap against Goku. Because Superboy Prime was literally written to be that, because he wasn't a character who was going to be kept around constantly. Superboy Prime is stronger. Period. At one point, Superboy Prime fought off Earth 2 Superman and Earth 1 Superman. Earth 2 being the one from the 50s, and Earth 1 being the one we all know and love. And he basically fought them to a draw, because fucking Superboy Prime. You know? But not Superman. Superman does have weaknesses. And I understand that their sources said he doesn't, but I'm sorry, I've read other people's comments. You know, where he does have limits. Like, I've read Justice League comics. If he were really that powerful, there'd be no Justice League, because it'd be all Superman. Because why would you need anybody else? There was an issue of Flash Rebirth that proved that Superman wasn't as infinitely powerful because he couldn't catch the Flash. Because I'm going to go over this again just because I love the setup of this. You know, I'm a Flash fanboy, but I'll admit he's not the be-all and end-all. He's... In a world with the Speed Force, he is the fastest being alive. You take that away from him and he's nothing. He's at best a subpar speedster, if he's even that. You know? But, the Flash, Barry Allen, the second Flash. I keep wanting to say the original, but the original was Jay Garrick. The second Flash. For those of you who don't know, in Crisis on Infinite Earths, they decided they were going to kill off the Flash. And let Wally West, Kid Flash, become the new Flash. And they wanted to give him a death worthy of the character, and they did. And he stayed dead for 20-something years, and everyone was happy with that. Because he had a good death that it stayed for 20 years, which in comic time may as well be dead forever after a decade, you know? And Wally West more than filled in for the Barry. Wally was a great Flash. Wally is a great Flash, at least until New 52. I don't know what the hell they did with him there. But, anyway. Barry is captured, I believe. And Anti-Monitor has this weapon that's gonna basically destroy the universe, so Barry has to run and outrun the blast or something. I only read it once, so I'm very sketchy on it, but the gist of it is, he ran himself to death. He was just this shriveled up corpse by the end of it. And he was existing in all times, basically simultaneously, as he ran himself to death and faded into the Speed Force. And one of the things he did at the end of the comic, after he died, keep in mind, he visited Wally and basically said, look, Wally, I'm on my run to stop this now. I'm running through time. And the time is going to come. There are 3 times in your life that are going to come where you're going to face the biggest challenges you've ever faced. And when these 3 times occur, I'm going to be there for you. And I know what one of them was. One of them was Rogue's War, when every major Flash villain, including Zoom and Professor Zoom, just appeared and were fighting each other. And Professor Zoom, that's Thawne, that's the one from Flashpoint, had come back and kidnapped Jay Garrick and strapped him to the, what's it called? The Cosmic Treadmill, which allowed them to go back through time. And Zoom, Hunter Zolomon, Wally's Zoom, had captured him, and they were forcing him to relive over and over again the moment when Zoom killed Wally's unborn children. Because his wife had been pregnant with twins. And, I suppose those who don't know, Hunter Zolomon was a friend of Wally West. Keep in mind, at the time, Wally was publicly known as the Flash. He did not have a secret identity. So Hunter Zolomon was a criminal analyst who his job was to look in on the rogues and all that and analyze them. And he was good friends with Wally. And he'd been, I think, at Blackgate at the time. I read this comic, but it's been years. He'd been in Blackgate at the time, and Gorilla Grodd was there, and he escaped. And he found Hunter and broke his back and crippled him. He might have done it just to be cruel. He might have done it because he knew Solomon was friends with Flash. The point is he did it, and that's what matters. And Wally comes in and he visits Hunter in the hospital. He's like, oh, God, Hunter. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. They say you're paralyzed. You're never going to walk again. And Hunter's like, it's okay, Wally. I don't have to be. You're the Flash. You can fix this. Get on the cosmic treadmill. Go back in time and stop Grodd. And you can stop this from ever happening. Come on, Wally. You're my friend. You're going to do this for me, right? Wally's like, dude, I can't fuck with the time stream. It's just, no, because where do you stop? He's like, Wally, I'm your friend. You have to do this for me. He's like, I can't do it. And I don't remember if there's a cutaway, but for the purposes of this, there's a cutaway. And you see Hunter in the Flash Museum climbing up to the cosmic treadmill, and he's got his wheelchair, and he's just rolling along, making the treadmill run, and he's like, the only reason you won't do this is because everything's been handed to you. You've never experienced tragedy, and tragedy makes a superhero a superhero. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you better. I'm going to make you suffer, so that the next time someone's crippled, the next time someone's hurt, you, Wally West, will not hesitate to do what's right to save the day. So, the treadmill exploded and filled him with temporal energy, allowing him to basically alter time to make himself seem as fast as the Flash. And so Hunter, who still firmly believes he's Wally's friend and that he's doing this for Wally's own good, and that's important to this story, is determined to make Wally's life a living hell, so that Wally will know what tragedy is, experience tragedy for himself, and will stop at nothing to prevent tragedy from ever happening again. Kind of the Batman effect, you know? In a sense, he's right, because look at Batman. That's what he's describing as Batman. But anyway, he had caught up to Wally's wife, Linda. I think his wife was Linda? Linda Parker? That sounds right. No, Iris. It's Linda or Iris. I don't remember. One was Barry's wife, one was Wally's wife, and I can never get them straight. Which is really awkward because one of them is Wally's aunt. But, anyway, it's not important to the story. Wally's wife. Which one it is it important? The fact of the matter is she was pregnant with twins, and Zoom caught her, and he snapped his fingers with enough speed to create a massive sonic boom that caused her to miscarry the twins. And at this point, Zoom is holding Wally's head and keeping his eyes open, so he has to watch this. And then, as soon as it happens, Professor Zoom starts the treadmill up and brings him back again, and he's watching this over and over and over again. They're trying to break his mind, basically. And suddenly, from out of the Speed Force, here comes Barry. He tackles Zoom, Professor Zoom, rather, and just carries him into the Speed Force, freeing Wally up to rescue himself from his Zoom by throwing him into the Zoom from the past, which stops the snap, which prevents the miscarriage. Suddenly, Wally's wife is in labor. Instantly, just boom, oh shit, the twins, you know? But anyway, that was one of the 3 times. I don't know what the other 2 were off the top of my head. But that was one of the 3. And anyway, in Final Crisis, Barry comes back for real, just out of the Speed Force to rescue everyone. And his friends in the Justice League are like, they're overjoyed, but they're wondering, what the hell? Why, after all this time, are you back, Barry? And he's like, I don't know. I don't even know where I was. I was kind of here, but kind of not. I don't know what was going on. But he touches a speedster, and that speedster just shrivels and dies. And every time he touches a speedster, this happens, and he's slowly turning into the Black Racer, which is basically the Grim Reaper for speedsters. The idea being that the Grim Reaper is not fast enough to catch speedsters. They can just outrun him, so they have their own Grim Reaper, the Black Racer. And something's going wrong with Barry, where he's becoming this, and his very touch just destroys speedsters. Anyone who knows anything about the Flash knows that it's not just the Flash, it's the Flash family, which is made up of all the speedsters in Barry's life, and there are several. I mean, just off the top of my head, you've got Jay Garrick, Wally West, Bart Allen, Iris West, his daughter, Wally's daughter, Irie, I think they call her, Liberty Bell / Jessie Quick, you know, etc. There are like 7 or 8, Max Mercury. There are like 7 or 8 major speedsters in his life, and just brushing up against them could kill them. So Barry naturally freaks out, and the Justice League had him in some kind of bubble. He vibrated through it and just took off running. And the plan was, I'm gonna run fast enough to go back into the Speed Force. So Superman gets down on the ground, doesn't fly after him, gets down on the ground and starts running after him. And he catches up to him. And he's like, Barry, come on, we're your friends, Barry. We can help you. You don't have to do this. He's like, Clark, no. I should be dead. I'm not supposed to be here. I should have stayed dead. I don't know why I came back. I never should have come back. I'm too dangerous to live, etc. And Clark's insistent. He keeps chasing, like, Barry, we can help you. We're your friends. And he's like, no, I'm going back to the Speed Force. That's where I'm meant to be. Wally is doing fine. He will continue to do fine. You don't need me. And finally Clark says, look, Barry, you can't run away from this. You can't run away from me. We've raced countless times in the past. I've even won some of those races. And Barry just turns to him with this look of just disgust and says, Clark, those were for charity. And then he's just fucking gone instantly. Clark can't even see him anymore, and he just kind of skids to a stop, like, what? And then, of course, there's that story I keep telling about the nuclear missile that Superman couldn't catch. So Flash picked up the slack by carrying everyone in the city to safety. So yeah, Superman's not the be-all and end-all. He's immensely powerful, don't get me wrong. I could even buy him being stronger than Goku. Now, for stuff that I would consider canon, which is stuff he does repeatedly. Because in comics, doing it once doesn't mean you can do it. Because sometimes you do stupid shit once. Because, remember this way, any one of Superman's powers, like, oh, I have super laughter or something. No, that's a stupid power. There's a reason he only ever did that once. Because someone saw it like, that's stupid, that's not real, out of continuity, that kind of shit. But if it's something like heat vision or cold breath that he does over and over again, yeah, that's something he can do. Because sometimes things just slip past the proofreaders. And it turns out, yeah, he really can't do this. So, in the canon of stuff that I've seen Superman do repeatedly, the caliber of villains, and just super beings in general, that I've seen him repeatedly battle, I don't think Superman could beat Goku. But even if he could, don't give me this Superman is infinitely powerful because he's not meant to be, to not be able to do stuff, because that's bullshit. Because they're like, oh, he's about immigration and inspiring hope and shit, then he wouldn't have the kind of comics he has. Because I don't see the character they're describing Superman to be in Death Battle, and I'm not saying he's not that, but the character they're really describing to me is Spider-Man, not Superman. Because Spider-Man struggles. Spider-Man struggles with what it's like to be human. Spider-Man struggles with morality. Like, hey, because that's the morality person. Because Superman lives in a fucking ice mansion. I mean, yes, he has an apartment in Metropolis, but look at all the nasty shit he's done. There's a website called Super Dickory that's just devoted to all the nasty, evil shit Superman has done to people. Downright malicious at times, in fact. But Spider-Man's the one that really struggles with all that shit. He's the one who struggles with, I'm a superhero. All I have to do is just market my talents a certain way, or come out and do this, and I can be rich and famous. And instead, he lives in poverty and just does the right thing. You know? If Superman were meant to be that kind of angsty, struggling hero, he'd be written a little more like that instead of being just this super invincible, oh, I'm going to take on villains thing. Because Spider-Man does... There's actually a lot of similarities to me from Spider-Man and Superman in the fact that, oh, they both hold back. Because here's the thing. Spider-Man is significantly stronger than he acts. And he actively holds back because he physically is strong enough to kill people accidentally. You know? And there has been mentions that some supervillains, I can name a couple off the top of my head, are scared to death of Spider-Man when he stops cracking jokes. The fact that if Spider-Man is not being goofy and wisecracking and all that, that he scares people to freaking death because they realize, oh shit, he's taking me seriously. He's not putting part of his brain devoted to cracking jokes. He is completely focused on me, you know? Because the proportional strength of a spider doesn't sound like much until you consider what that means, you know? I mean, let's use the analogy of an ant, right? Like, oh, here's the ant thing. Ants can lift 50 times their weight. Let's say the same is true for spiders. Let's say I have the proportional strength of a spider. Alright, let's take my average weight, because it fluctuates. If I had the proportional strength of a spider, I could lift 12,000. Again, this is using the 50 times analogy. I don't know what a spider's proportional strength is. We're using, well, let's say if I had the proportional strength of an ant, I could lift 12,250 pounds, which, in layman's terms, is 6.125 tons. Okay, let's say I have a lifting strength of 6 tons. Let's round it down. What happens when I punch you in the face? When I get mad enough to not hold back and punch you in the face, I would liquefy you. You know, there would be nothing left of your head if I were to punch you with that much force. Now, I'm considerably heavier than Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure. Let's say Spider-Man weighs about 20 pounds, or 120 pounds. That's still 6,000 pounds. That's still frickin' 3 tons. 3 tons of force. That's enough to lift a car. Enough to throw a car. Enough to crush you to death with a car. Imagine a punch from that. Imagine a kick from that. Imagine him hurling himself with centrifugal force on a zip line and kicking you in the face with that. So yeah, Spider-Man holds back a lot. Maybe it's not Superman's strength, but he damn sure pulls his punches. It's a very rare person that he stops holding back against, because he'd have a higher body count than the Punisher if he didn't. And J. Jonah Jameson would have no trouble stirring up sentiment against him if he did the kind of stuff he's physically capable of doing. Which is exactly why he doesn't, because he doesn't want to hurt people. You know? So, like I said, I see a lot of similarities between the two. And again, he lives with moral dilemmas like you wouldn't fucking believe, because, again, he can have money and fame and power. And he doesn't. You know? Hell, he's been an Avenger a couple times. Matter of fact, I remember a specific time with Luke Cage's Avengers after Secret Invasion, after Siege, after all this shit, when Norman Osborn was in power and then they booted him out. He was one of Luke Cage's Avengers, the new Avengers. And Captain America basically gave Luke Cage full autonomy. And then assigned an officer who had been one of Norman Osborn's people, which Spidey did not take well to at all. And Steve had decided to cut them all checks, basically say, hey, you're government employees, and Luke wasn't having it. It took a huge argument from his wife to get him to accept that, because he had been told, hey, this is my Avengers, I do what I want, I recruit who I want, etc. We're beholden to no one, and then suddenly they're on Steve's payroll. Well, that implies, hey, I work for Steve, and he was told specifically he worked for nobody. So he had taken those checks and thrown them back in their face, and his wife said, Luke, will you step aside from me? He's like, no, whatever you got to say to me, you could say in front of my friends. And she tore into him, basically saying, how fucking dare you make this decision for everybody? If you want to turn down that money, that's one thing. But keep in mind, we have a daughter, diapers are expensive, baby food's expensive, etc. And you don't have the right to speak for Ben Grimm, for Wolverine, for Spider-Man, etc. You don't have a right to speak for these people. And so they handed out the checks, because he backed down, because Jessica Jones can be scary as shit when she wants to be. And Spider-Man's response was, well, where's mine? And the woman, Victoria Hand, I remembered her name, yay, basically told him that in order for him to get his check, he had to register his identity with the government, which he refused to do. So he could have had a substantial amount of money. Not like wealth, but he could have been well enough off, especially since he was living in the new Avengers Mansion, which was the old Avengers Mansion. But either way, it was now the mansion home of Luke Cage's Avengers, which was being refurbished as they had this conversation. So he didn't have to pay room and board, you know? So he could have made a substantial living for the first time since he'd been one of Tony's Avengers. And he chose to keep his identity instead. To be fair, it wasn't some moral thing. He didn't trust Vicky Hand, because she'd been Osborn's right-hand woman. And unapologetically so. I mean, because he confronted her about it, and she said, look, Osborn was a nutcase, but what he was trying to do was the right thing. You know, it's like, look, even I don't agree with Norman Osborn on most of his policies, but I agree with what he said he was trying to do, you know? That you superheroes have too much power, etc. Basically, Norman Osborn was a crazy Lex Luthor, well, crazier. And I don't buy for a minute the idea that they would have given control of the planet to Norman. Because it's not like President Luthor where he won the election. I could absolutely see Lex Luthor being president because he does have charm and charisma. Especially with ordinary people. And he is a wealthy businessman. And yes, he has done some villainous things. And yes, he's a nutter. Because he fucking is. But he doesn't act like one. Whereas Norman Osborn is completely batshit. You know, just unapologetically crazy. And I've completely gotten off topic. But yeah, basically, the way they describe, except for the whole infinite power thing, the way they describe Superman in Death Battle is the description for me of Spider-Man, where it's more a case of being inspiring. And you might say, well, Spider-Man lives in poverty, etc. What's inspiring about that? I'm inspired as shit. Because guess who else has been going through some financial troubles? But here's the thing with Spider-Man. No matter how hard you hit him, he's always getting back up. And you know he will rip himself in half to save your life, etc. He will do whatever he has to do the right thing. But yeah, again, I could even, like I said, I could even buy Superman potentially being more powerful than Goku. But not with the sources they cited, because I don't consider those, even though they're from the comics, I don't consider them canon, because that doesn't add up at all with anything I've ever seen Superman do. It sounds like we need this to happen, we don't know how to make it happen, let's use Superman. You know? Which means to me, lazy writing. So go make Superman do it. We expect bullshit from him. Like, and the whole, oh, they lifted Spectre, who's made up of eternity. Other people have left Inspector. Parallax comes to mind. You know? Like, oh, he's lifted a book with infinite pages. That's a stupid thing, okay? Just the concept of a book with infinite pages is a stupid thing. And I saw that book. It looked like an encyclopedia. If it truly had infinite pages, it would be infinitely vast. You know? Again, I just don't buy... And again, I don't blame Death Battle for this. Their job is to research this shit, and they did. It's just the shit they were researching didn't come with a bullshit tag saying, you know, we actually wrote this out of continuity. Don't use this as any kind of example. Because Superman is immensely powerful. But there's literally nothing I've ever seen in the DC universe. And in the past couple of years, I read a lot of DC stuff. Like, I read all Blackest Night. I read mostly the Green Lantern stuff. And Green Lantern tends to have a lot more of the more powerful shit, you know? But there's nothing really in DC, and keep in mind, DC tends to be more ridiculous than Marvel when it comes to powers, that even suggests anything on the level of Dragon Ball Z. I mean, everyone likes to make jokes about powering up, like, oh, they just stand there yelling for a couple minutes. Yeah, they don't realize that's literally the same thing as Hal Jordan doing the In Brightest Day and Blackest Night thing. That's them gathering energy. The example I use is, what if every time Billy Batson said, Shazam! A city was destroyed? You know? What if every time Hal Jordan did his In Brightest Day and Blackest Night, Green Lantern Oath, just earthquakes all over the place? Because that's what it's like to be in DBZ. They used a great line in Death Battle that I really liked from Superman, and I do agree Superman having this line, because this is absolutely his thing, but it also describes Goku, the whole, my every footstep, an earthquake, my every breath, a hurricane, feel glad that this power is not your burden. That describes most people from Dragon Ball Z. I've seen them just powering up and having the ground crater underneath them. When Goku went Super Saiyan 3, it caused global earthquakes and high winds. When he powered up before the Cell games, he was blowing people away on the top of Kami's Lookout, you know? So, there's an awful lot of power being thrown around that you never see Superman do. So, I personally think, and I'd even agree that I could see Superman going all out, being able to match Super Saiyan 3. I don't think he could take 4, and I certainly don't think he could take Super Saiyan God. I think he would win a fight with Super Saiyan God Goku. Because that is, at the time, I haven't seen the new movie, but at the time, that was a temporary thing. He could tap into some of that power, but it wore off. You know, apparently in the new movie, it's his normal form now, but still. But anyway, I've talked too much. I'm glad that I had good news. This will actually be up relatively on time. It'll be up Thursday at the latest. And Final Fantasy's up. I'm working on so many Let's Plays that should all be up on time. I've got my credit card bill paid. We're caught up-ish on the power, at least to the extent that they're going to give us time to not get shut off. John's got a couple jobs that might happen. We've got another roommate who might be moving in, bringing money, so who knows? September could be my month. I'm Kyrix, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody!